now, right 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 now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today, so we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always happens, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the drop on Bitcoin that we've witnessed over the last 24 hours, and I will be breaking down for you why I believe that that drop could be one of our first steps towards that all-important and critical support level at $28,545. I'm very excited about today's show, and I'm also very excited for today's afternoon video. So make sure you stay tuned. That will be going live immediately after this stream concludes. This stream will be concluding at 10:45 a.m. At 11 a.m., our next episode of Climate of Crypto will be coming out. You're not going to want to miss this one because we're going to talk about where Bitcoin's going next and how you can profit from it. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and read some chat. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Cannot wait to see where you guys are going to head over the next several years. Let's see. We have Sean O'Brien was first saying yo-yo in chat. Andrew1428 in chat said good morning. Joe Bollier, Alex Nibo, Daniel J, Corey Dawson, Crypto Surge, Corey Dawson again. Burrito Next Gen Anime says good morning, good evening from Australia. Good morning to the Down Under. We've got XOOOO in chat. JJJ. There's two of them. There's J and then there's JJ. There's Crypto Mini Bike and DHN Crypto said, morning, Jeb. Pray all is well, bro. Chasse in chat as well. It's a cool name. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap and get started here. And Philip Caspian, we can also say hi to you. Welcome to the stream. All right, Bitcoin right now trading just below $30,000. You may be thinking, Jeb, what in the world are you talking about in today's title? That Bitcoin is just taking the first step, one more step towards $30,000, or excuse me, $28,545. We'll discuss that here in just a moment, but let's get a quick recap. Right now, Bitcoin is trading right around $30,000, and we can see that it is up 0.4% over the last 24 hours. Over the last 7 days, it is down in general by 2.5%. Last 90 days is up by 4.7%. It is also up 80% year to date. Let's not forget that. Let's remember the context. Bitcoin and a couple of its leading contemporaries are doing very well this year. XRP is up 137% year to date and actually looks like it may be about to go through a big breakout. Here's a quick tip. XRP looks like it might be about to go through a big breakout. Hint, hint, hint. Let me just grab a chart really quickly here. It's looking pretty good right now. Definitely looks like it's going to try to break back up above that current level of resistance at 82 cents. Keep an eye on that. But moving back on over to CoinMarketCap, I also want to show you the market dominance. We have seen a little bit of a shift in the market dominance over the last several weeks. We've obviously seen a big drop on market dominance from Bitcoin, moving straight into XRP. XRP is now sitting at 3%. In fact, it's sitting at almost 3.5%. We've also seen Ethereum's market dominance continue to trade sideways, and Bitcoin is sitting at 48.5. The thing that is interesting to me about that development is that Bitcoin has shed some of its valuation almost immediately for XRP, but that is not a transition that is just that's not a transition that happened gradually. It's a transition that happened very quickly because XRP nearly doubled in the span of just 24 hours. And when it did that, naturally, that took some market capitalization from everything, but definitely away from Bitcoin. All in all, if you disregard that a bit of an anomaly, we've seen a continued gradual uptrend on the Bitcoin market dominance, but eventually we will see some of that Bitcoin market dominance flow over into the altcoins. The way I like to think about the altcoin cycle is like this. If you have a cup, you can either drink from the cup by drinking from the cup itself and then lowering the amount of water or juice or whatever it is you have in the cup until there's nothing left. Or you can keep filling up the cup until the cup's running over, and then you can drink from the amount of water that's running over the edges of the cup. And oftentimes that's a good analogy that you've heard people use in our own lives. You know, people say don't drink from an empty cup, fill the cup up and then drink from the overflow, right? The altcoins are in a bit of a similar situation. There are times where the altcoins try and go on a massive rally and Bitcoin just is not in a position to really support their movement. You can think about Bitcoin's success as the spigot that's pouring water into that cup. And so if the altcoins are rallying and there's almost no water going into the cup in the form of a strong Bitcoin, then the altcoins are drinking from a limited supply and eventually they're going to run out of strength because Bitcoin itself is not doing well. But when Bitcoin is doing very well, it's almost the life source, if you will, for the other altcoins. And so it's almost like opening the tap up more and filling the cup up faster. And what you really want to get to a place of is where Bitcoin is extremely strong, and because Bitcoin is so strong, it is filling up the cup so quickly that the altcoins are rallying very quickly as well because of the overflow, because the cup's full and the altcoins are able to drink from the overflow of the cup. And that's where I believe we are going to be heading over the next 12 to 18 months. I believe Bitcoin is going to continue to get stronger, and as it is the source and the sustenance for the altcoin market, I believe that it is going to help the altcoins perform very, very well because it is first feeding itself. Fill up the cup first, drink from the overflow. This is a similar concept that I talk about in personal finance with investment. It is a wonderful idea to invest as heavily as you can in your own financial sovereignty and then drink the fruits thereof. Invest in your investments. Invest in ensuring you have a steady flow of income. Invest in making sure that you have value coming into your life in the form monetary is what I mean in this case. And so that you can go on trips and you can enjoy the fruits thereof from the overflow. You can be generous with the overflow, but you've got to work today to fill up the cup so that you have leftovers so that you can help somebody in need that you feel called to help, so that you can go on this big fancy trip that you'd like to go on. I know my wife and I, we have all kinds of cool things that we want to do one day when we are in that position to financially do that. We'd love to go to the Bahamas and do all these different things, and we do a lot of really cool things, but we'd love to do even more. And so we have to fill that cup up and then be able to drink from the overflow. And the altcoins are in a similar position that we can find ourselves in personal finance sometimes, where they're trying to drink from a draining cup, which is not a sustainable and long-term strategy. So the altcoin market right now is performing pretty well, and the altcoin market right now is performing relatively well as a result of Bitcoin performing relatively well. This is why I spend most of my time talking about Bitcoin, by the way. When Bitcoin is succeeding, it is naturally going to lead to success in the altcoin market. And oftentimes, when Bitcoin is doing very well, the altcoins will massively outpace Bitcoin. But don't forget, Bitcoin is still the source of the water in that metaphorical cup that helps to grow the altcoin market. All right. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the cryptocurrency, over to TradingView and discuss Bitcoin. I made a relatively bold claim once again in the title. Everybody loves it whenever I make these bold claims in the title. People really don't like it. You guys end up giving me some hate. You're like, Jab, what are you doing? You're saying something the exact opposite again of the market. That's not what the market's doing. It's really fun making polarizing titles. That I mean, but just because somebody's going to come in and say, what are you talking about, Jeb? And then they hear me explain. They're like, oh, okay, I guess, well, if you put it that way, I guess it makes sense. And so that's kind of where we are right now. Let's talk about why Bitcoin just took one more step towards 28,545 and why I hope it continues to take more. Bitcoin's step that it just took towards 28,545 has happened over the last 48 hours. And that is this. It has continued to put a downtrend in motion, as you can see right here on the 1 hourly chart. Yesterday's live stream took place right about here. That's where the market was yesterday. And this is the market that we were looking at. We were looking at a double bottom. You'll remember this from yesterday's stream if you were here for yesterday's stream. Bitcoin had a double bottom in play, and I was telling you guys, look, we had this parabolic movement towards 29.5. We had another one. Bitcoin's probably going to continue to move with more aggressiveness towards that bottom level. And so right now what we're doing is just that. We have continued to follow this downtrending level of resistance, and we're currently sitting below $30,000. Now, I want to address the bulls in the room. I want to address the people that believe that Bitcoin's about to go through a major rally, because it could. And remember, my goal here is not to predict with 100% accuracy which direction the market's going to go. My goal here is to show you the steps that Bitcoin is taking, and then help you to understand what each movement might look like, why each movement may happen, that being either up or down, and prepare for both, because ultimately, if you get in this game of trying to predict, oh, the market's going to go up and I'm prepared for it to go up, and then you don't prepare for the counter scenario, it going down, then it really doesn't matter whether you're right in your prediction or not. What matters is whether you were prepared for both outcomes, because both outcomes are always possible. Hopefully that makes sense. So the bulls in this camp right now are going to say, but Jeb, look at this head and shoulders pattern. This head and shoulders pattern has a shoulder line right here. I already drew it. This head and shoulders pattern, if we broke bullish relatively soon, could push us all the way up to $30,600. To that, I would say absolutely it could. It certainly could. And I will be interested to see how that plays out over the next 24 hours, because there is also an uptrending level of support right now that if this does turn into a head and shoulders, an inverse head and shoulders pattern, we would have to break bullish out of basically before 10 p.m. tonight. If Bitcoin doesn't break bullish out of this symmetrical triangle pattern, which I'm not convinced it will, then it's probably going to break to the downside. The bulls will lose their inverse head and shoulders pattern, and Bitcoin will continue moving towards 28,545. So let me just be very clear on the step that we took towards 28,545, and then we'll explain the implications thereof. There's a critical support level at $30,000. That support level has been held firm for the last going on a month now. We came down and tested this level right here on the 22nd of June. We came down and tested this level here on the 25th, here on the 28th. We tested here on the 30th. We bounced very aggressively with this long wick down here, which meant that the bears got a lot of strength. The bulls bought it right back up, and Bitcoin went on to set a higher high very soon thereafter. We had another test here on the 6th of July, the 8th of July, the 10th of July, then also right here on the 14th of July. But every time we came down below this level, we never set more than 2 candle bodies down here, a red one and a green one back to back, other than the time when we were first getting above $30,000 here on the 22nd of June. When we came down to test it, all 3-4 of these times, it was just candle wicks. When we came down here this 5th, 6th time, candle wick and then a candle body, red, green, very quickly bought back up when we fell below $30,000. Now it seems that we're penetrating below $30,000 and beginning to establish a trading range south of $30,000. If you look at the last, let's say 36 hours, let's say 48 hours. If you look at the last 48 hours, ever since 10 a.m. on Monday, we have seen Bitcoin has spent probably over half of its time below the $30,000 range. That's not the same scenario that we were seeing back over here, where we saw very short candle bodies below $30,000, maybe some wicks here or there, but we were trading above 30K. But the actual trading range was probably averaging right here around 30,500. No, right now the average trading price right now is about 29,900. This is the first step towards 28,545, because breaking below a trading range, below a support level, oftentimes will involve trading around that support level and just kind of hovering around it at length. And so I believe that Bitcoin has taken its first step towards this corrective movement that we've been predicting would happen over the last week or so, down to our uptrending level of support and down towards 28,545. And it does seem that that may be coming sooner rather than later. I'm also excited to tell you that that would be a very bullish thing. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of details today on why it would be so good for Bitcoin to go down to 28,545, because I've literally talked about it on the last 2 streams, and I'm also going to talk about it briefly in today's afternoon video. I guess it's actually a morning video. It's a 10 a.m. video, 11 a.m. video. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But needless to say, I've said it many times this week alone and many times last week, if Bitcoin dropped down to 28,545 and the uptrend at that same level, that would be an extremely bullish movement for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin taking its first step towards 28,545, I hope you understand, is not me trying to convey FUD. You should actually be reading that title if you agree with what I'm saying, and you don't have to, but if you happen to agree with my assertion that a drop to 28,545 would be a bullish thing, then you'll look at today's title and you'll say, okay, good news, awesome. And I certainly hope that we do drop down to 28,545, because that would be a healthy correction that would help us to consolidate and move higher. All right, let's take a little bit of a look at Lux Algo and see what it's doing on the various time frames. Down on the 2-hourly chart, we currently have a sell signal that was confirmed not that long ago. And this is something I definitely want to bring to your attention, because it helps to confirm what I'm talking about here. When Bitcoin is trading sideways, Lux Algo has a very difficult time being particularly useful as far as predicting a breakout, because you really have to wait for the breakout to happen. There's just not any data when you're trading sideways for any technical indicator or technical analyst, Lux Algo, me, you, otherwise, to predict whether we're about to go to the upside or the downside. You have to wait for a movement and then analyze the strength of that movement. So when we saw this red sell signal come into play, but it wasn't confirmed by Trend Catcher, we thought, okay, maybe this is just more sideways trading. And indeed, we did trade sideways for quite some time here. But then we saw the red Trend Catcher come into play here at 1200 hours on Monday, the 17th of July, 2023. That was this Monday. The Trend Catcher changed color to red and has dropped quite aggressively. As you can see, during all of this sideways trading, red or green Trend Catcher, one or the other, doesn't matter, have barely moved. This is the Trend Catcher right here. Hardly moves at all. This more aggressive move by the Trend Catcher on the 2-hourly chart for Lux Algo does indicate that there is a more significant trend change happening right here. And you might think, but Jeb, wait a minute, we saw a buy signal come into play here. Yes, but this buy signal is not confirmed, so we can safely completely ignore it. Pretend this buy signal doesn't even exist. It is irrelevant so long as it's not confirmed. It's not irrelevant. I shouldn't say it's irrelevant, but it is very, very, very weak unless it's confirmed. And as soon as that buy signal came in, we started moving to the downside as well. And at the same time, the other thing to consider, this is one of the other steps that we took towards 28,545, is that when Bitcoin rallied here, it rejected off of this previous uptrending level of support that has been in play for a very, very long time, as you can see right here. Hugely important support level, resistance level now. We found resistance on it back in February, support on it in April. Traded around it here on the 9th of May as we fell below it. Resistance here on the 28th of May, broke through it. Used it as support multiple times, and then when we tried to use it as support this time, and we did a couple of times, we ended up breaking below it right here on this fateful Monday, and now we're trading below that uptrending level of support. We're below the uptrending level of support, below $30,000 primarily. We're above it sometimes, below it sometimes, but for the most part, we're below 30K. And also, of course, we saw that buy signal come into Lux Algo that is now starting to become invalidated. So I am relatively convinced at this point that Bitcoin has now actually begun the opening stages of that movement down to 28,545. It's going to take time to see whether it actually comes to pass, but I do believe it's going to happen. This sell signal that we saw here from Lux Algo, by the way, gave us a take profit that began at $29,500. If we move the market forward, you can see that is exactly where the market went to. This is the local bottom right now, 29.5, and that local bottom was predicted by Lux Algo several days earlier. Bitcoin going to 29.5 was predicted on the 14th of July, which was a Friday. You move forward, and on Monday, the next week, so 3 days later, this is the 2-hourly chart Lux Algo, we would end up coming down to test this level of support. Lux Algo's levels are remarkable. They're very, very, very good. And of course, it got reset after this buy signal came into play, but I just want you guys to see that so you can understand how powerful this technical indicator is. We predicted this, and it happened 4 days later on the 2-hourly chart. That's almost 100 candles later. Let's see. That's almost 50 to 60 candlesticks later. That prediction actually came true. And then right after it, we saw the red X, which indicated you should probably get out of a short trade. And that red X did not repaint, by the way. It showed up right here. Let's just kind of zoom it forward a little bit. That red X showed up right here at this candlestick, and the very next candlestick, this is the replay tool, so you can see this is happening in live time. The very next candlestick, we began our uptrend. How amazing is that? How incredible is Lux Algo, guys? Absolutely wonderful technical indicator. If you've not already used it, you definitely should. You can use coupon code JEB30, that's JEBB30, for 30% off at checkout. I am sponsored by Lux Algo as far as I am affiliated with them. I'm not technically sponsored by them, but I do have an affiliate link with them because I love their technical indicator, and I've been using it myself for, gosh, what has it been? Almost 3 years now? I think it was 2020 when I started using them. It's 2023 now. The company's grown remarkably. They've got, maybe 100,000 people using Lux Algo now. It's at least over 50, I think, over 50,000 traders use Lux Algo in cryptocurrency, in the stock market, in forex market, in precious metal markets, used in all of those markets, is becoming the industry standard for paid technical indicators. So make sure you sign up for it using coupon code JEB30 using that's JEBB30 for 30% off at checkout. And by the way, if you're the kind of person who wants to kind of know a little bit behind the scenes of what's going on with the company, I do actually know the founder of Lux Algo, Sean Mack. He has the YouTube channel Lux Algo. You should go subscribe to it. I was the guy that convinced him to start that. Well, I didn't convince him, but I encouraged him to start the YouTube channel and put his face out there. And I've actually met him in person. He came down here. I took him to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. was a lot of fun. Had a great time with him. He's a cool guy. I think he's got a great thing going, and I think he really, really cares about his customers. And I think his heart is in the place to really help people become good chartists. And I'm not paid to say any of that. None of that has to do with me affiliating it. I just want you guys to know what you'd be buying. I do genuinely believe in the product, and I think you should definitely sign up for it. All right. Moving along, though, I also want to talk about the different impactors on Bitcoin, and one of those is the Dixie. As you know, guys, the Dixie is the dollar currency index. Again, I need a button over here on my soundboard that just plays this on repeat. The Dixie is the index which measures the strength of the United States dollar against a basket of other national currencies, and it is showing that the dollar has been losing a good bit of strength relatively recently. There's plenty of geopolitical reasons for that. One of the reasons for that is that the BRICS nations and several other nations are saying, the United States dollar really has a lot of power. And let me just back up here. I'll give you a little bit of a geopolitical breakdown of what's happening with the dollar, why the Dixie's going down, and the impact it's having on Bitcoin. So, over the last 500-600 years, ever since like the dawn of modern civilization, if you want to call it that, in banking in Italy, there has typically been a reserve currency. Think about it like this. If you are a trader and you live in Samoa and you use the Samoan national currency and you're trying to trade with somebody from Sweden and they use the Swedish kroner, and it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to facilitate a currency transaction between the Samoan currency and between the Swedish currency because there's very little trade in between those two currencies. What's going to be much easier is if you first trade into an intermediary, such as the US dollar, and then trade that intermediary into into Swedish krona. Because Samoa is going to naturally trade quite a bit with the United States dollar because they're doing business with the largest currency in the world, and so is Sweden. So it's much easier than finding a trading partner where you can swap currencies from Swedish krona to the Samoan national currency. Swap those. It's much easier to have an intermediary, and that's where the United States dollar comes in, and that's why it has world reserve currency status. Whenever a nation is attempting to conduct a trade, they're normally going to conduct that trade either through the United States dollar or just plain and simply they're going to conduct it in the United States dollar because it's much easier to find a currency conversion between your currency and the dollar and then the dollar and the other currency. It's almost like if you have 100 people speaking 100 different languages, but 60 of them know English. One of the best things that you can do is translate what you know into English and then translate from English into that other language. There's an intermediary. Oftentimes that's not the way it happens, but if you think about it, there's going to be much less translation that has to happen if everybody just has to translate their one language into English and then English into their one language. If you do 100, what would it be, factorial? You're going to have to do, if there's 100 people with 100 different languages, think about it like this. If there's 300 currencies and there's 300 different currencies that need to be transacted with the other 299, you are going to have to facilitate hundreds of thousands of unique currency transactions. Now, or at least tens of thousands. Now, if you convert all of those currencies into the dollar and then into the other currency, you reduce the number of transaction types that need to happen by over 95%. And so that's where the United States dollar comes in as that intermediary currency where currency transactions are occurring. All this I'm going to bring back to Bitcoin, don't worry, but I do just want you to kind of understand the political situation on the global scale with the dollar. Many nations, primarily Iran and Russia, are very, very, very displeased with the United States dollar. Why? Well, the United States can basically single-handedly, globally ban a nation from the international monetary system. North Korea is in that pariah state basket as well. The United States dollar, being the intermediary currency, essentially means that if you are the United States and you embargo, place sanctions upon a nation and say you are not allowed to use anything that uses the US dollar, you're not allowed to use anything that uses US banks, you're not allowed to use anything that uses US monetary systems like SWIFT, then that not only locks you out of the United States financial markets, it also locks you out of pretty much every other market because every other market is but based on the United States dollar. And so Iran very much is not happy with this because they've been heavily sanctioned for, 30 years now. Russia is very displeased with this because they've come under even heavier sanctions than Iran has. That's brought those two nations that are historic rivals kind of closer together. You've also got China over here, who's very displeased with the United States, and they don't want to kick the bucket too hard. They don't want to kick the lion too hard on the United States dollar, but they want to be able to build some kind of power for a potential move on Taiwan before 2032. The next 10 years or so, as they still have the demographic ability to make that movement. So they are trying to facilitate this de-dollarization movement that you've been hearing in the news. So they're trying to facilitate all of these different trades in yuan. You've heard about maybe Saudi Arabia taking selling oil to the Chinese and taking yuan as payment. You've probably heard of Russia and Brazil and South Africa and many of these other BRICS nations, India, trying to work somewhat with the yuan or other currencies to try and get away from this great, humongous power that the United States dollar has. The tricky thing is there is not a single other currency on planet Earth that is large enough to lubricate $100 trillion worth of trade globally every year. Not even close. The yuan does not come close to the ability to be able to facilitate that kind of trade. And one of the most critical reasons why it's not is because the yuan, the Chinese yuan, is under some of the strictest currency controls of any currency in the world. For a currency to be able to become the world reserve currency, you have to have a huge amount of freedom to use that currency. The United States doesn't even know how many US dollars are out there in circulation because they don't have their hands on most of them. Most of them are held by other nations, and most of those other nations are dealing in dollars, but they are not dealing in dollars in a way that the United States even knows about. If the United States had the same kind of currency controls on the US dollar that the yuan had, the economy would crash by 50% overnight. It's impossible. That being said, if you're a nation and you're using US dollars and the United States says our dollars are not allowed to be used this way, and you're a nation that goes ahead and does it anyway, then now you are subject to the ire of the United States. And so you don't want that. You don't want to come under that fire. But nevertheless, Russia, Iran, North Korea, China, to some degree, a few other nations are a little bit disenfranchised with the dollar and the power that it gives the United States. But it is not anywhere near enough of the world's power to in any way, shape, or form move to de-dollarization. It's not going to happen in at least half a century. The dollar is going nowhere. Mark my words, it is not going to cease to be the world reserve currency for a very long time because there's simply not another currency that even comes close to the ability to facilitate the kind of trade that the United States dollar does, nor is there any kind of geopolitical incentive for all of Europe, all of Oceania, most of South America, and most of Africa to move away from the dollar, which makes up 80+% of the global economy, or excuse me, 60 to 70% of the global economy. The United States dollar is not going anywhere. That being said, countries such as Russia, Iran, China, some oil trade coming out of Saudi Arabia, some of these movements can have an impact on the strength of the dollar. And so that's where I think some of this drop on the Dixie has come from. Not just this little drop, but also the drop since September of 2022. We've started to see more trade denominated in other currencies, but nothing that is ever going to be able to get over that hump, or at least not for many decades, get over that hump and lead to a flippening where another currency becomes the world reserve currency status. It's not even close. The United States dollar ebbs and flows in its strength over time, and it was much lower on the dollar currency index back during 2008. Didn't go anywhere, still remained as the hegemon. That being said, the Dixie probably will continue to go through a correction as certain geopolitical realities play out. The United States dollar can be thought of like this. It is a weapon, and the more of the weapon that the United States uses, the less powerful it becomes. As you use a weapon, you end up using some of the ammunition, you have to restock it, right? You have to refuel it. And so by kicking the Russians out of the global economy, then the Russians say, all right, well, I'm just not going to participate with dollars because I'm not allowed to, apparently. And fair enough. And so that does remove some of the power of the United States dollar because now the Russian sphere is no longer using the United States dollar. Hopefully that makes sense. You can't join our club. All right, well, then your club's going to be smaller because I'm not in it, right? That's kind of what's going on here. So the United States dollar is naturally going to lose some of its value, but it is still overwhelmingly the largest currency in the world and facilitates massive amounts of transaction. Now, the reason that I bring that up and the reason that I mention all that is because you need to understand the dollar's mechanics to understand Bitcoin's place in that ecosystem. Is Bitcoin ever going to take over the world reserve currency status? Almost certainly no. And the reason can be summed up very simply. Now, there's dozens of reasons why Bitcoin will almost certainly never take over as world reserve currency status, but one of the main reasons is that Bitcoin does not have the ability to facilitate anywhere near the number of transactions that the dollar does. The dollar, we don't know the number. It is an unknown number, but the number of transactions that the dollar facilitates is probably in the millions per second. You heard that right. It's more than likely in the millions per second, and it's in the tens of trillions of dollars range every single quarter. The Bitcoin market is nowhere near that large. That being said, one day in the future, I could absolutely see Bitcoin being held as reserve to back up the United States dollar or other sovereign currencies in a sort of Bitcoin standard, as Safadin almost talked about in his book. It's very unlikely that it will ever become the world reserve currency that facilitates the majority of trade in the world, but it could absolutely be a store of value that is used to back up the value of sovereign currencies, and that alone could send it to well over $10 trillion in 2023 dollars. So the reason that I bring this up also for today is because with the Dixie going down, it is helping Bitcoin in some capacity. When the dollar is weak, Bitcoin is able to step in and take some of that strength away from the dollar. When the dollar is very strong, it's very difficult for Bitcoin to rally. And because of many of these geopolitical realities, de-dollarization is not happening. You can come back in 10 years and you will know that I was right. And I don't mean to be prideful on that, but it's just a fact. It is not going to happen this decade. The future can change. Something could happen in 30 years. Unless the United States and Russia go into a thermonuclear conflict and the United States ceases to exist and somehow the global financial system goes on with two of the largest economies on the planet just being, trading in bottle caps. Unless some kind of insane apocalyptic Yellowstone erupts or something insane happens, the United States dollar is not going anywhere anytime soon. The reason I bring it up is because with the dollar losing some of its strength, that has led to some room for the Bitcoin market to rally. And I do believe that is a bullish factor that will help Bitcoin in the medium term. That being said, in the short term, as in just in the last couple of days, the Dixie has actually been rallying and double bottomed around the 99.5 mark. This rally over the last couple of days, ever since the 18th of July, which was basically yesterday, this is about the last 36 hours, Dixie's been rallying quite aggressively, and you can see the impact that it's had here on Bitcoin. If you look at Dixie versus Bitcoin, Dixie goes up, Bitcoin goes down. That is the general trend. People counter trade both of those markets as far as you don't really trade the Dixie, but people counter whatever the Dixie's doing on Bitcoin. Dixie seems to be going through a short-term rally that could very well lead to a short-term drop on Bitcoin. Now, it is balanced out by the fact that Bitcoin's also positively correlated with the stock market, and the stock market is making fresh highs every single day. And it is continuing to push to the upside. So I will say this, Bitcoin is probably in a more stable position right now than it would be if Dixie was rallying and the S&P was not. So I do believe that this correction on Bitcoin will be coming sometime in the next couple of days, maybe the next week or so, but especially in the next 24 to 48 hours. We're going to see if Bitcoin breaks bearish below this uptrending level of support, and then we could very easily see Bitcoin pushing back down towards the mid 29.5 region. And if it does that, then I believe this uptrending level of support or 28.5, whichever one, will likely be the place that we bottom out. And then once we fall down to these levels, if we do, I want to say if, even though I'm pretty confident it's going to happen, if we fall down to these levels, then that's going to be where we start talking about entry prices. That's where we're going to start talking about buying. And that's where live, I'm going to attempt to tell you, hey, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not your financial coach, financial coach. As far as I'm not your financial advisor, those are two very different things. I do want to help you guys to learn about how to implement finance in a proper way, and financial coaching can help with that. But I'm not your financial advisor, so I'm not going to give you specific investment advice. But I will say, hey, look, I might be interested in going into a long here, something like that. Now, there's one more thing I want to mention, one more facet of this conversation that I want to employ. And that would be that you will have heard me talk about over the last several days this price target on Bitcoin for this next rally, whenever it may happen, probably moving through the beginning of September. That is a rally of about 34 to 36, and that a lot of that comes from Lux Algo. But that also just so happens to be the exact same level that there is our next CME Futures gap. And as you know, Bitcoin does very regularly fill CME Futures gaps. Doesn't always do it. There's one down at $20,000. Didn't fill that gap. But the one that's closest to Bitcoin right now sits between 34,290 and 35,200. This is the CME Futures gap that showed up when the Luna collapse happened. And so with Luna collapsing last May, that's over a year ago now, we left that gap, and that's also the beginning of the support zone right here above 32,935. I believe that if Bitcoin does have that correction and bounce and break, then we're probably going to go up there and fill that gap, and it'll probably happen within the next 2 months. So just wanted to kind of throw that on there as one of our final parting pieces of technical analysis. I do believe at this rate that we're going to see Bitcoin go through a rally, and I do think that rally will bring us all the way up to about $34,000, but it is definitely going to take time. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Let's make sure to Make sure to hit make sure to hit the like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned because I've got some really cool things coming relatively soon that I am very excited to show you guys. Like in the next month or so, got some cool things I'm excited to show you. Man, it's an exciting time. It's a very exciting time. Vida de Sonjador. Vida de Sonjador. I don't know if I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Why the gaps happen? So the reason that gaps happen is because CME Futures only trade on stock market hours. So that means that they close over the weekend. If you look on CME Futures, you're going to see that the two candlesticks here are not actually the same day. There's a day between them. This is Friday the 6th of May and then Monday the 9th of May. So the entire weekend happened and Bitcoin moved from its candle body close at 35,810 down to its candle body open on May the 9th, Monday, at 34,425. That's why the gaps happen, because market moves over the weekend, or it moves in extra market trading hours, whatever the word is for it, non-market trading out, whatever the word, there's a word for it. But the Bitcoin market will move when the stock market isn't open, and so you'll get those gaps. There you go. Good question. Like number 97 was rewarded. Shout out to whoever was like number 97. And hello, Leroy Essel. Hello. Robert Vickery said, Bitcoin action now. Yes, Bitcoin does seem to be moving, and it does seem to be moving to the downside. We're going to keep a close eye on it. You can see Bitcoin right now is flirting with that uptrending level of support. Hasn't really officially broken it yet. I could see us just reestablishing the uptrend like this, but we will see how that plays out. We were at the gym this morning, and we saw a modified Lamborghini Huracan. So just felt like sharing that with you. That's pretty cool. It's blue and orange. Let me see if I can find a picture of one that kind of looked like it. Had the kit. Looked a little bit like this. Beautiful, beautiful vehicle. It had that. I don't know what it is, but it had this spoiler on it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's see. Let's look in chat. Bahrain said, my name's Jeb. Your name's Jeb? So are you from Bahrain, or is your name Bahrain? Queen is in chat. Hello. Dude, you were just saying we're going to 35K. I still believe we're going to 35K. I believe we're going to have a correction first, though. And I think that's going to be one of the best things that Bitcoin could have happen to it, because it means it's going to be sustainable. I just finished my coffee. Cup is empty. There you go. Well, that's my point. If you're drinking your coffee and there's not someone just sitting there constantly pouring new coffee in, eventually it's gonna drain. But if you're like me, when I was 19 and I just moved out of the house and I was living on my own and I would drink 7 cups of coffee a day, you would probably love to have somebody just holding an infinite source of coffee there and you could just drink the overflow and it would just never end, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's the analogy we were talking about earlier, is drinking from an overflowing cup. Dig your well before you get thirsty. Yep, use the water that you have right now to power yourself digging the well so that you don't get thirsty. It's absolutely a good way to do it. Do we have the bull signal soon, Jeb? I think we're going to see bullishness after we see that correction. Critical Tinkering, I almost said thinkering. Critical Tinkering said, first time here live. How are you, Critical Tinkering? That's a really cool name. I wonder what you love to tinker on. You've got to tell us what your favorite thing to tinker with is. Keith Wood in chat. Chasse again said, whoop, whoop, B. It was Blippy. Blippy? Blippy's in chat? Oh my goodness. My son loves Blippy. 2E Enterprises in chat said, sweet. Turabit said, hi, Jeb. Thanks for all the knowledge you share. Thank you so much for tuning in so that I have someone to share it with. Let's see. Eric Ward said, to go higher, you must go down and get momentum. Just like jumping on a trampoline, it's just a matter of time. We shall go up, and the sell pressure will bring us back down. Then we will go back up and up. Yes, dropping is a bit like a trampoline, and reversing is a little bit like gravity pulling you down. Brahim El-Lasri said, love from Morocco, guys. Love from Morocco. Hi. Good morning from Massachusetts and occasionally Puerto Rico. Gabriel Nieves Ramos. Good to see you, my friend. My wife is half Puerto Rican. Never been to Puerto Rico. I'd love to visit, though. You can't make a horse drink. That is right. That is true. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it out in 5 minutes, but Tell me anything that you would like to address. Andrew 1428 quoting Psalm 23 there. Don't think I didn't see that. Let's see. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou appointest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That's right. It does talk about your cup running over in Psalm 23. TUI Enterprises said, your expertise and passion for this space have undoubtedly inspired and enlightened countless individuals, including myself. Oh, man. That's what I'm flattered. Thank you, TUI Enterprises. I really appreciate that. And I've been doing a lot of thinking over the last year about how I can really, really help you guys. And there's been a lot of, I've definitely had a lot of realizations of ways that I set out to help you guys and ways that I really want to help you guys. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is this. To become financially sovereign, which I believe is the goal, certainly the goal of what I'm trying to help you become, there's two components. Number one, there's education. That's simple. That is very simple. If you want to look up how to become, not how to become, but if you want to look up what is a budget, you're going to find 10 million results on that on Google. If you try and figure out the actual path and the journey to progress yourselves towards financial sovereignty with me holding your hand and helping you to get there, that is something that you're going to have a much more difficult time finding. Somebody to walk alongside you. Put it like this. It's very simple to find a video on YouTube teaching you how to do back squat form correctly, right? Very simple. What's hard is to find an expert personal trainer who will walk with you and will stand there with you and say, this is our plan. I'm going to write you a plan. You're going to be able to get to doing a 315 back squat, whatever it is. You're going to be able to do it in this amount of time by using this form and doing it with this plan. Having that progress laid out for you and saying, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. That's what I want to help you guys achieve. I don't want to just come here and say, here's how this technical indicator works. Here's the numbers. Here's the inputs. Frankly, you can find some of that online. Some of it you can't. Some of it you really do have to, just have to learn from somebody who's done it before. But if you're just trying to figure out what does RSI stand for, Relative Strength Index, great, whoop-de-doo. That's surface level knowledge. What I want to teach you guys is not just knowledge. I want to teach you wisdom, and I want to help you to apply it. And so financial sovereignty, achieving financial sovereignty is not just a knowledge thing. It's not just knowing, okay, I need to have a budget. It's not just knowing, all right, I need to make smart investments. It's not just knowing I need to invest first and then enjoy the fruits thereof after. Those are important concepts and those are important principles, and we will teach those. What my vision is to help you guys, and by walking alongside you guys, move from wherever you are today to a more financially sovereign position. Maybe today you were in a similar position I was in when I grew up. I was flat broke as a joke, as a bloke, and there were all kinds of ramifications from not having control over the finances. There are all kinds of things that can happen when you don't have control over your finances. To the point where we live a very financially sovereign life at this point. We are able to pay for our bills, and we're able to enjoy ourselves, and we're able to go on trips, and we're able to do these things. And I'm very, very blessed to be in that position, but it didn't just come from knowledge. It also came from application. And application takes this bottoming out. It takes this hitting rock bottom and realizing I have to change. And I've had plenty of moments in my life like that where something happens, I made a mistake, or I learned something, or I got smacked upside my head by something, and I realize something serious has to change here. Something serious has got to give, and it's got to be different. No option. My back's up against a wall. That's how this channel started. My back was against a wall, and I said, I am simply not doing this anymore. I am going to make a video every single day. I made a video every single day for 3.5 years on this channel to get it started. Because something's got to change. There is no other option. This has got to change. And when you get to that point with your finances, you might not be there yet, but when you get to that point with your finances that you say something has got to change, I am not living like this anymore, then I want to be there to help you figure out how to get out of that position and how to make that change. But you first have to get to the point of burning the bridges behind you and saying, I am done living this way. I am done spending $800 a month on eating out. I am done having $250,000 in student loan debt. I am done having a job that I work 120 hours a week and I barely make enough money to pay all my bills. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, even though I'm making $100,000 a year because my expenses are in the toilet and I'm not spending any time with my family. When you are done, then I want to be in that place to help you figure out how to get out of there. But you first got to be done. And so that's what I'm trying to build. And that's going to take time. I want you guys to realize this. This is a vision that I have for the next 10, 20, 30 years. This is not something that's going to be built today. It's not something that's going to be built overnight. But if you're here in 10 years, you're going to see an incredible ministry where I believe I'm really going to be able to help you guys. And that's the vision. All right. 2E Enterprises said, the notion of financial sovereignty that you have articulated so brilliantly has awakened a new sense of empowerment within me. Your explanations have helped me understand the importance of taking control of my financial destiny and the profound impact it can have on one's life. That is an incredible testimony, 2E Enterprises. I really appreciate that. And with some of the launches and products, and I don't want to tease too much, but with some of the things that we're going to be doing in the future, I really want to lean into comments like that. I really want to lean into getting that response. That is the response. That is exactly what I am trying to build, so that we can generate responses and feedback and life transformations like that. That's what I'm going for. And that does have to do with cryptocurrency, but it's not all cryptocurrency. It's, for the most part, up here. It's mostly up here. It's mostly mindset. It's mostly a burning the bridges and doing away with and saying, I am dead to that. I am so... The Bible says, likewise, reckon ye also yourselves be dead indeed unto sin, but alive unto God through Jesus Christ our Lord. That is Romans 6:11. That's that concept of saying, hey, Christ freed me from sin. I'm dead. I am done with that. I'm so done with that. Done with bitterness. I'm done with anger. I'm done with selfishness. I'm done with pride. I'm just done. I do not want to live that life anymore. I'm going to turn this way. I'm going to do that instead. You've got to get to that point where you say, I am just flat, smack, dab, done. I'm over it. And I want to show you what to do with that energy. All right, guys, I'm going to answer one more question, then we got to wrap it out because you've asked this a couple times. It's a great question. Tell me in chat if I'm wrong. Rodriguez said, what are your Lux Algo inputs? Love to show you that before we wrap it out. Lux Algo use 12 and 26. It's the standard. It's actually I think it's actually what comes standard. I don't really change it too much because it works so well. I don't need to. Signal sensitivity, you're going to set to 12. Make sure you have trend catcher turned on. Signal mode, confirmation plus exits. Let's see here. Your TPSL points, I'm not using that right now, but then where's the 26? Where is it showing me the 26? It might not show it anymore. After a recent update that may have changed a little bit. But you're definitely going to want to have your signal sensitivity on 12. I used to set the signal agility on 26, but it looks like they actually removed the number. None of the signals changed, so it shouldn't change anything. But yeah, okay. Have your signal sensitivity on 12. Looks like there was an update recently, and I didn't notice. Cool. But make sure your signal sensitivity is on 12. And then trend catcher's on. And then confirmation plus exits. Candlestick coloring, I use confirmation simple. You can do the gradient, or the gradient right there. It might be a little more helpful for you to have the gradient. I'm colorblind, so that just ends up confusing me, but it might be helpful for you. So definitely set it up however you want. There are going to be better strategies than others. But yeah, definitely take that into consideration. Eric Ward says, smash the like button. Show your appreciation to this stream and to Crypto Jeb. Thank you guys so very much. As I said, I am going to have to wrap it out, but I'm so excited for this journey. I'm so excited for you to be on it with me. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell, sign up for Lux Algo, and also sign up for Principles of Technical Analysis. You can find both of those in the description box down below. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching. As always, it's Eder. Thank you. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling. Got a